Good afternoon, fearless school leaders. This is Dr. Demia here. Thank you for tuning in or watching the replay. I'm usually on a Monday, but I was with clients and traveling, and I haven't quite figured out how to preset it. So I prefer going live anyway. I just like that kind of energy. So I figured instead of not doing it, right? I'll do it on Wednesday. Yesterday I was too tired. You have to listen to your body. So I'm here today, and it is a beautiful Wednesday, beautiful day outside. I hope you all are taking some time to enjoy the day as you engage in your work. So I want to say, am I live here? Yes, I am. Okay, great. Just checking. So, hey, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Dr. Demia Thomas, and I am a product of public urban schools. And my passion is empowering urban school leaders and to lead with confidence so that they can transform the culture in their building, right? And so I believe we also have the power to change the systems that continually oppress our most marginalized students. Me, I was one of them. And so I believe, as Margaret Wheatley says, we have to be brave enough to have the conversation that matters. And I always push that or add to that to say, be courageous enough to create the disruption that's needed for our kids to change the conditions, right? Like we have to start thinking and acting outside of the box, because what we're doing and the way it's been created from this antiquated system is not working for our most marginalized kids. So this weekly session really talks about issues, topics, things that are current issues and current challenges that school leaders or leaders in education may be facing. And a lot of times I will pull in some data to kind of support that, because I am everything in your building. Everything in education is around data. And I'm not just talking about testing and assessments, but there's lots of qualitative data. And today is going to start the first of a 4-part series. And that 4-part series being, how do you as a leader, like, how do you balance the burn, right? And when I say burn, I mean, that feeling of overwhelm, all of the things that are happening. How do you balance um, that and your high expectations while making sure that you have this balance of not being burnt out, right? So today is really about laying the foundation of how to balance those high expectations. Okay, so we're going to dive into that topic because it's crucial for your long-term success, right? Like being able to balance your high expectations that you have for staff and your well-being, right? Because if you're not well, how are you going to not continue to navigate this work and pull your staff along this challenging experience as well? So you have to create this balance here. And I'm going to get into that in a second. But this session is really about laying that foundation for the 4-part series, and what it really means and why it's essential, and how to actually identify areas in your leadership practice where balance is needed, right? Because that's so critical. And I'm going to get into that in a second. So let's explore how we can maintain high standards, right, without compromising our health and effectiveness. So the first thing I want to do is talk about balanced leadership. So when you hear the word balanced leadership, if you're watching the replay, I want you to think about what that means for you. Okay. So let's clear it up in terms of how we're going to use the term balanced leadership in this 4-part series. Okay. So how to lead with high expectations without burning out, right? It's going to address the desire to balance this leadership and what's the true meaning of it. So the word balance, when you think about what balance means to you as a leader, it may seem a little elusive, right? Because it's such a broad word. But it's not about aligning your actions with your high standards. It's not only that, it's about aligning your actions with your high standards while safeguarding your well-being, right? You have to have those three. That's the balance, because your actions and your high standards go hand in hand, right? They should. And you have to make sure that you have the well-being as a focal part of what you do every day as well, right? So think of it as a strategic approach to prioritizing responsibilities without sacrificing your personal needs, right? So this is not just about managing time, okay? It's not time management. It's about managing your energy and your focus and your priorities. It's a very big difference from managing your time, okay? So when you think about balanced leadership, I want you to think about it as it allowing you to be firm, right, without being rigid with your staff, right, to ensure that you're being effective and present both in your work and your personal life, because there is a distinct line through line with those two. Okay, so keeping that definition that we're going to use for the next four parts, right? And the definition again is aligning your actions and high standards while safeguarding your well being. That's the balance. Okay. And I'm going to keep reminding you of how we're using this phrase today, balanced leadership, throughout the four-part series. I'll remind you. So let's talk about what happens when we neglect it, right? And so I'm sure a lot of you are already like thinking of words already that are easy to say. Um, uh, but when you neglect it, you actually let your like when we let our focus on high expectations overshadow your well-being, burnout is inevitable. And I know that in the line of work that we do in education, I've had this conversation with so many leaders. We are servants. We serve people, right? That is one of the reasons we got into education, is to serve the communities, to serve our families, to serve our students, right? Because we see that there's a need for that service. A lot of times in service, though, we have a tendency to overlook our own well-being in acts of service. And that's where the burnout can come in, right? It's inevitable for burnout to come in. So, you know, when we lose our, when we are burnt out because we're not catering to our own well-being, your creativity wanes, right? Your passion starts to wane. And ultimately, your effectiveness as a leader will start to wane as well, because you're not 100%. Right now, I'll say this again. I think I said it last week. I heard Michael Bonner. Michael Bonner has this quote where it's, you can't withdraw without investing in people, right? So we can't ask people to do things that we're not doing ourselves, because we need to be asking them of those tasks and things. We need to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves as leaders, so that you are still effective, so that you can, continue to be creative, right? So it doesn't stop with us. Like this imbalance, if we're feeling this imbalance, and I have felt it several times as a leader, this imbalance spreads to staff, right? It can spread to your staff, it can spread to your school community, and that is something you definitely want to avoid. So a leader who is running on an empty tank, right? How can you inspire others to thrive if you don't have the energy yourself to do so? Right? How are you thriving if your tank is empty? And I'm having this conversation now and doing this four-part series now to prepare you for the school year, because the school year has started already. And those feelings of burnout are going to eventually, like, they're going to come, right? These feelings of overwhelm it's inevitable. It will come. But what you need to do when they come is really critical, right? And being able to assess when you're feeling burnt out is really critical. So, this is why it's really important to understand the balance, right? It's really critical to understand, because When you are not thriving as a leader, you don't have the energy to thrive, your confidence dwindles as well, right? So if you're watching the replay or joining live, if you have any comments, please share it. What are some of your thoughts around, maintaining this high level of expectations and your well-being as a leader in the role that you're in? Um, Moving on to some of the benefits, right? When you are integrating balance, right? This balance into your leadership practices, some of the benefits now are, when you intentionally integrate balance, you enhance your resilience as a leader, right? It has been research proven that when you take care of yourself, when you stop sometimes, right? Your decision making improves. You have to stop and get a clearer picture. And you do, every time you stop, you are paying attention to your own personal well-being, right? And how you are taking care of yourself. It's necessary to sustain effectiveness as a leader, right? So, as a leader, when you're modeling this balance, you're showing your team, especially your leadership team, that it's absolutely possible to do it. And you value taking time to take care of yourself, right? So that's the message that you want to send to your leadership team, because they are the people who are going to carry the work out to your school and your school community. So, when you think about the possibilities of being like this, sustaining in this work, it is absolutely possible. It has to be intentional though, right? So the benefits are, this approach will foster like a culture of high expectations, right? Knowing that high expectations and your well-being can coexist. That leads to a thriving, sustainable environment. There was a gentleman at the State of Black Learning conference I went to this month in Philadelphia. It's a great conference. If you haven't gone, you should definitely look into going. It's really amazing to be in a room, in an environment with people who share the same ideas and have the same goals as you in terms of Black and brown kids, right? Um, so anyway, there's this principal. I cannot remember his name, but he's a principal of a school, and oh my goodness, I can't remember where it is either. But what he said was, there was a men's panel towards the end of the conference, and on the panel, one of the gentlemen who's the principal was talking about how he intentionally hires Black men as teachers and staff in his school, and he provides mental health. Like he has like acquired funding to for therapists to come to the school, right? During the school day. Like he has allotted and created a schedule where therapists come to the building and provide therapy sessions to the people in the school. Amazing. When I tell you, thinking outside of the box, like thinking and doing things that promote your well-being and maintaining this high expectation, when you talk about balance, this man has put into place a system to protect not only himself, but his staff from feeling and being overwhelmed and burned out. Absolutely beautiful. I don't know how he did it in terms of, the finances and, how he acquired the funds to do that. But that is one clear example of how to ensure that you and your staff won't burn out, or have the resources that are needed to help you from preventing burnout, right? And overwhelm, because we need people in our buildings for our kids. Okay. So that example also shows like the benefits of integrating this balance in leadership practices, right? Okay, so that said, share your thoughts too. I'd love to hear your thoughts and communicate with you. But here's an action step I have for you right now. Okay, I want you to self-assess your current balance. And if you're at the beginning of the school year, you're probably still on a high, right? Like I know every night before the first day of school, I always had butterflies in my stomach. And I was a principal for 12 years. And I still, every single year, had butterflies in my stomach just from the sheer excitement of the first day of school. And so right now, I need you to take a self assessment of your current balance. And I'm going to ask you to do this intermittently throughout the school year. Okay. So now it's time for some self reflection. You ready? Okay. Ask yourself, how well am I balancing high expectations and my own well being? Right? Think about that for a second. Consider your routines, consider your stress levels. And I'm going to put a pin here because this is qualitative data, right? I'm always talking about how and where data it should be pulled into these conversations. When you are taking these mental notes and jotting these things down, this is qualitative data that will help inform what you do next, right? So the question is, how well, you're asking yourself, how well am I balancing high expectations and my own well being? So consider your routines. What are your stress levels when you're engaged in those routines, right? How often do you feel overwhelmed during a week, a day, right? In a particular meeting, do you feel overwhelmed, right? You have to jot these things, and it could be a simple tally, right? Like even if you have a running something and you're feeling it, I know on my watch very often I have this what uh one of the oh, what's the word I'm looking for? One of the aspects of the watch is you can tell the watch how you're feeling, right? I have a Fitbit, so I can say if I'm happy or stressed or anxious or those kinds of things. So sometimes if you have a device where you can capture that information, you can go to the app and see it across time, which is perfect, right? So think about this. Are you constantly in overdrive? Are you constantly like, okay, I have to do this, I got to get that done, I have to do this? Or do you make time to recharge, right? You have to be aware of it. Like I was telling my fiance yesterday, I have been on go for maybe 9 days in a row, just on go, coming back in from work, and sitting down and devoting hours to my book, right? I do have a book that's coming out, y'all. I'm so excited about that. I'll share more information. But I have been committing hours to completing this book. Like I had set a goal for myself and a deadline and sat down and committed hours to doing it every single day, right? In between that, I'm traveling, right? I'm hopping on Amtrak. I'm going to Maryland. I'm flying to, Pittsburgh. I'm flying back to Pittsburgh. I'm getting back to like back on Amtrak, back to Virginia. Then I'm driving back to Maryland to meet with a different client, right? Like, so it has been nonstop, like nonstop, working on the train, like just working, working, working. And so yesterday I told my fiance, I'm like, when I come in today, I am not doing anything. Like I didn't open my laptop. I didn't do anything. Like I needed to be away from anything that required brain power. I needed to be away from it because when I was like coming home at 5 o'clock, 5:30, I'm on the computer working on my book until it's time to go to bed. Right. And waking up and doing that all over again. So you have to know when you are constantly in overdrive. I have been in overdrive for the past 7, 8, 9 days in a row, right? I realized that I had to make time to recharge. You have to know that. Like you have to know and which means being aware of, you know, your anxiety levels, your breathing, if you are tossing and turning at night, like you need to be aware of how your body reacts when you are in overdrive. And as a leader, it's critical for you to do this because if you are in overdrive all the time, your energy is going to stress the hell out of your staff. I'll tell you that right now. If you're in overdrive all the time, you are going to stress them out because it is not healthy to be in overdrive all the time. I get it. Every once in a while, you got, you know, a deadline you need to make, or, I understand that, but you have to recharge because you don't want to bring that energy to your staff. It's going to be cause it's going to be detrimental, right? It's going to create an environment that you are trying to avoid, and you're not doing it intentionally, right? So it's intent over impact. You're not intending to make them feel that way, right? But you are when you are not taking time to recharge. So take a few moments now and reflect now on your current state, listening to me, right? This is an honest assessment. It's That's really important for laying the foundation for balanced leadership. So how are you feeling like in this moment right now at 6:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time? How are you feeling right now? Are you relaxed? Are you anxious? Are you content? Are you calm? What does your body feel like? Right? When you're anxious, does your skin get hot? Does it get clammy? Cool? Does your heart race? You have to be aware of these things so that when your body's actually experiencing them while you're engaged in the work, you can be aware of it and then pivot, right? So I need you to self assess your current balance right now, right? Take a second. I'm going to be quiet for like 3 seconds. Okay. So you should have an idea of how you're feeling right now, being aware of your body, your emotional state, right? Very important because you're bringing that where you are, right? The second action step, identify the areas now where balance is needed. So the first thing is you're assessing how you're feeling. And the second thing is you're going to identify the areas where do I need this balance, right? So let's pinpoint where the balance actually occurs. Is it in time management, right? Is it in delegation? Where and a lot of leaders do this, they want to take control of everything so much that they're afraid to let stuff go. And that's creating overwhelm, right? So the delegation piece, right? Or is it setting boundaries, right? Are you allowing people to, you know, are you responding to people at ungodly hours when you know you don't need to as a leader, right? Especially if you're working in a district. Are you responding to emails and texts when you know you don't need to? So identify where this imbalance is occurring. Is it your time management, your delegation, your boundary setting, right? For me, it was my time management. Like I had to learn how to manage my time better because I've been a procrastinator, right? And so because I work better under pressure, that didn't mean my staff did as a leader. And I had to learn and develop the skill of time management because even though I work better under pressure, like, okay, I got to do this, for some reason, I just work better under that kind of pressure. That's always been me. You put me in a corner, oh, I'm coming out that corner and I'm coming out hard, right? That's just who I am as a person. Everybody's not like that. And as a leader, I had to identify that because I was stressing out my staff and I had to develop time management skills, right? Identify where the balance is needed. Take a moment to think about specific aspects of your leadership that need more balance, right? Where could you pay more attention? Okay. This clarity is going to help guide like your steps, right? This is the data piece, right? You're collecting data in step one, right? And then now the date from this data, it's going to guide your next steps to ensure that you're focused to kind of restore this equilibrium that's needed between high expectations and well-being. Okay. So we got 2 steps. Share your thoughts. What are you thinking? Hey, Janelle. And I can't say the name, but Ad Maze Denor. Hello, I'm glad you love it. So tell me your thoughts, what you're thinking. How can you incorporate this into your day, your week, right? And it's an intentional practice. So I would really love to hear how you plan on doing this. So here's my uh, call to action for you. This is my homework for you, right? For your well-being. I'm giving your well-being a hug right now. Your well-being will thank me. After this session, I want you to take 15 minutes to complete your self-assessment using those 2 steps, right? Remember, the first step is you are going to identify key areas where balance is needed. And then the second step is you're going to identify, no, I'm sorry. The first step is you're going to do the self assessment, right, of your current balance right now. The second step is you're going to identify where balance is needed, right? Take 15 minutes after this session and complete your self assessment. Write it down, jot it down. If you have a watch, set it up so that you can monitor how your emotions are in that moment to balance your well being, right? Identify one area to start integrating balance, right? That is your homework. That is your well being homework, okay? Complete the assessment, those 2 steps, and then identify one area where you can start integrating balance in your life, in your leadership, right? Is it going to be in how you are delegating more responsibility to your leadership team so you don't feel like you're doing everything, right? Because there's some steps to that, but you gotta let go and do it. Is it time management like it was for me, right? Think about what it is and when are you going to do that? Which one area that you're going to, because I'm sure it's a couple, right? As leaders, it's a couple. I know it, but only pick one because again, we don't want to overwhelm ourselves. Just pick one. Um, and we're going again, this is the first of a 4-part series, so I'm going to dig deeper into the action steps in the next session next week, but for now I just want you to start where you are so that we can keep moving forward. Okay, so I need you to commit. If you're watching the replay, I need you to put commit in the comments because I need you to commit to just taking 15 minutes. And if you say you don't have time for 15 minutes to do this, there is a problem right there, right? Because this is about well-being. You do have time. We make time for the things that we want to make time for. We make time and prioritize the things that we want to do. This is something that you have to want to do. Okay. So I'll say it again. 1, first step, self-assess your current balance. 2, identify the key areas where balance is needed. And then your call to action this week, I need you to figure out one thing that you're going to start working on to create more balance, right? Because again, we do not want you burning out. We need you, those high expectations that you have for yourself and for your staff, you need to make sure you are balancing that with your well-being. Okay, because we need you. We need you. We need you. We need you. I hope that this has been helpful in some way, shape, or form, and at least spark something for you to think about. Um, and if you're watching the replay and you plan on committing to this, hit the commit, put comment commit so that I know that you are 100% full throttle with this. And I will see you next week with the next part. Next week's part 2 is titled Practical Steps for Sustaining Leadership, like how you're going to prioritize. We're going to talk about that, how to prioritize and delegate, right? And create boundaries. Boundaries are very important. So, thank you for spending this time with me today. I appreciate you logging on, watching the replay, and I look forward to seeing you next week. I will drop, if you want to have further conversations, I will drop my Calendly link in the comments so you can schedule a coffee chat and we can talk this through a little further. I would love to have some one-on-one conversations with you because this work is really, really important and we need you to have the balance that you need so that it's sustainable. Okay. So keep going, courageous leaders, and have a fantastic Wednesday. See you on Monday for part 2.